Hey everybody, and welcome back to Project 224, where we are committed to applying the true knowledge and wisdom found only in Christ to the everyday world around us.
It's been a while, but we are back.
It's been a long time, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
life got a little bit crazy.
It's been a while. I walked in, you had a head full of hair. Just kidding.
That's fantastic.
We need to start recording these. Didn't we talk about that one time? Like having a camera filming us. Doing stuff?
Yeah. How we go right before, because that's really where the gold is here.
That is
right
outtakes
before,
and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, for those of us who know, we do come from Florida,
Yep.
and we did have a little bit of a heavy rainstorm.
Yeah. Some people call it a hurricane, but we called it summer rains.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
I feel bad. It was so crazy. Obviously, our hearts and our prayers have been out for the Bahamians. I know
Absolutely.
that our church has done a, more than just thoughts and prayers,
Mhm.
which prayer is a good driving force, and we should continue to do it. But if you can be the answer to prayer, then we also encourage you to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so we were able to put together just a huge care package.
Mhm. And some other
um,
churches in the area.
and
well.
they did with I forget the name of the actual ministry, like Bahamian Ministries, or I forget what it was, but
Yeah.
we actually had a hookup with somebody who used to be a pastor down in the Bahamas,
Mhm.
retired recently, and so they still had connections, and he was actually a pilot, so he
Mhm.
could fly the supplies down. So that's been
His
good.
family actually listens to our podcast, so
They do.
you know who we're
shout
talking
out.
about. Shout out.
So the devastation that was there was crazy, and I think that was
Yeah.
the thing that was so crazy about this hurricane is, at first it was supposed to be a tropical storm, and then all of a sudden it was the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Caribbean,
Right.
and it came so close to us.
Yeah. I kept thinking to myself, can it go past a 5? Like in my mind, I was thinking that because it was so strong.
They don't have anything, but I mean, it's just
It was
one of those-
gigantic.
yeah,
It was a gigantic storm. And when you look at the trajectory of it and how where it was going, and then how it just stopped over the Bahamas.
Yeah,
Oh man, it just breaks my heart.
crazy. For
And then God
48
spared
hours.
us. Yeah. God spared us. It was just like a kind of a normal
So-
day for us, but
Yeah, so we got a heavy rainstorm, but I don't want to downplay the fact that there was a very tragic, catastrophic, and I don't know. I mean, it was probably a week and a half or so ago, but last I knew there were still 1,000 people missing.
wow.
They only counted 37 dead. And I only say only because then when they say, but there's still 1,000 missing, you're like, oh my goodness, that count could go up.
I think we have a team going in a week or so.
Yeah.
Going
Oh
down
yeah,
there
that's
to
right.
help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually gonna not only send the supplies, but send some labor and some
Right.
help and
Help rebuild.
Even more so, they're going to send people who are going to share the gospel, right? Because that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
While people do need help, their greatest need is still not just a house and not just to get their life back together. It's
Absolutely.
what their position before God is. So
Yeah.
sending the gospel is a great thing.
So that's what's been going on, and that's
Yeah.
why we haven't been together in a while.
So that
And
that
I have to
then-
admit something pretty embarrassing. Right before
Uh-oh.
we came on, I said, "Hey, Paul, you know it'd be a good idea. I think it'd be a great idea if maybe we played music at the end of our podcast, just like the beginning."
It's like, do you have outro? We should do outro music. And I was just like, so about that.
You're like, we do. I was like, oh,
I'm pretty sure we've been doing that since episode 1.
So yeah, I admitted that a lot of times I just don't hear the ending part because at that point I just kind of
I mean, I can't be too upset because, I mean, maybe you don't necessarily listen to the whole thing, but you kind of do because you were there.
Yeah, but I don't hear the music in my head. It's not like I hear the
No, we
music
don't play
outro because we don't play it live when we're recording.
What? That's not live? You've given away our secrets.
Oh man!
I also have somebody who, unfortunately, he was ready to take the Better Than Butter challenge, but he had
Oh,
some
are you
health
serious?
issues, and so he's gonna wait for a little bit. But yeah, he's
wait. He did know it wasn't like actually eat butter, right?
yes.
Okay.
No, he
I was making sure that wasn't a health issue.
he was legit trying to get. He's like, I've been trying to get some sound effects and try.
No.
He wants to go full bore at this. So
That would be
if
awesome.
this is, yes.
Does this person already have a shirt?
I don't know if they do or not.
Oh, that
If
would
they
be
don't,
so
then they
great.
will go. Yeah.
That would be so great.
And I think we owe another person a shirt, and I keep forgetting to put it in the mail. So
Is it the person that emailed us?
yeah,
Mm,
I know.
I
I'm a
even
terrible
reminded you
person.
about this person.
I'm a terrible person. So it will get it. I mean,
But the shirts are getting out there. I've been seeing pictures of people wearing shirts
Yeah.
at different places. That's pretty awesome.
So, anyways,
So what are we talking about today? been a long time. Lots
Yeah,
been going
it's been
on.
a long time. There's so much that's been happening there. I was like, oh, we could talk about that. Oh, we could talk about
know.
that. Then something came along, and this is something that I've been looking forward to talking about, and I just kind of needed the right, I don't know, article, the right thing to come up, or just to get my thoughts around it. And then, like, I don't know, just like a gift from heaven,
Right.
we get this tweet that comes out that I was like, and here we go. So I think I sent it to you. This is from Union Seminary.
I'm actually looking at it right now. Yep.
Yeah, from Union Seminary, and they sent a tweet out that said they had this thing where what does the tweet say? It's
Today in chapel. Yeah, we
says,
confess to plants.
Today in chapel, we confess to plants, and literally, I'll have to put the link up on the show notes. You see this? I guess it's it's probably a tarp because it's square. You can tell it's square.
Yeah.
They put mulch around it, and then there's all these potted plants, and then you see this kid sitting in a striped shirt, and he's sitting there, and he is apparently confessing his sins. It says, we confess to plants together. We held our grief, joy, regret, hope, guilt, and sorrow in prayer, offering them to the beings who sustain us. The beings who sustain us, but whose gift we often fail to honor. What do you confess to the plants in your life? What's funny, and I can show you kind of the picture here, is you see everyone around there. It's like clearly if you see between the plants, there's this guy in a suit. I don't know if you could see him.
Yeah.
He's kind of sitting there looking at like, is this really happening?
Am I in the right room?
Yeah, like oh man.
What? Where am I? Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. What?
But
what is happening
literally,
in that?
like this person sitting there with a microphone.
Is there like a line or
he's
something?
not even in a chair. I didn't notice that.
He's sitting Indian style on the floor.
Yeah.
Holding a microphone.
It's crisscross applesauce.
Oh, sorry.
We don't sit.
Well, some of us can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
he's sitting there in a Where's Waldo shirt and with a microphone confessing his sins to plant. I think it's a he.
I can't tell anymore.
All right. So I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. Now, Union Seminary went liberal probably in the early 1900s. So, I mean, whatever. But
they've been leading up to this.
Yeah, it's been leading up. But then we had this weekend, was it last weekend or the weekend before, where we had these climate change protests that went on.
Right.
There's been a lot of talk about that. There was that, I think she was 16. There was like a teenage girl who spoke at the UN, and there was this big thing because Donald Trump, while she was saying something, not knowing, entered the room, and everyone just kind of like dissed her to talk to Trump, and she kind of shot a look at him, which whatever. I mean, that's neither here nor there for me, right? Really, in a lot of cases. But the fact that we are having, I mean, I saw some ridiculous. They're having protests, and the protests they're having circles or like dance circles, and they show a picture of this guy twerking to "It's Getting Hot in Here" by is it Nelly?
I think it's Nelly. Yeah.
For global warming, it's getting hot. I was like, oh my goodness. And then NBC News actually came out, and they have a site, and I can put this up too. They have a site that basically is confessing. You can write your confession about the sins you've committed against the environment. It says, even those who deeply care about the planet's future can slip up now and then. Tell us, where do you fall short in preventing climate change? Do you blast the AC? Do you throw out half your lunch? Do you grill a steak every week? I mean, yes.
I had one this past week.
I'm having one tonight.
It was actually pretty amazing.
Yeah. Share your anonymous confessions with NBC News. So, and people did. You've used some of these confessions. And it's hilarious. Some of the things they what is it? Some person was like, I tell everyone that I'm a vegan, but really I've been eating chicken for the past year.
Oh man.
One
under food waste, it says, sometimes I get lazy and don't compost my coffee grounds.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Keurig, so.
Well, okay, so this is you then. I use K-cups at work. I hide it from my wife.
I guess that's my confession.
These are my confessions.
Oh, man.
Why don't we talk about the disposable diapers? 450 years to decompose. Because here's the thing. I can't do washable diapers. There's sometimes, I don't know, when my kids
Well, they have adult diapers for that.
What I'm just saying is,
You didn't get my joke there. Did you? I was talking about your diaper. Which, by the way, you're turning 40 this week. So
yes. So I am
cue
very
the old
close to
person
diapers.
jokes. Cue the old people jokes.
But yes, I can't. I have to do disposable because sometimes some things can't be washed.
Right.
Sometimes they've done something so terrible that you're like, this has to be burned.
Hey, here's another confession. I'm 77, have had cancer, and love to be comfortable. Stop trying to control me. That's great.
So I mean, it's been on everyone's mind, and I'm not, just so you don't tune out, like, here we go, we're gonna bash on people who try and do the environment. I would encourage you to stay tuned because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised in some, and
we might mention your name.
Yeah.
Just
at the same token, what is a Christian view of the environment, right? So if we say the Bible, we claim on this show that the Bible speaks to everything.
Right.
We're speaking the truth of Christ to the everyday world around us.
Right.
Which, by the way, take the better than butter challenge and do that. So what does the Bible have to say about the environment? So that's kind of where we're at today, because we see where the world is. And what one of the things I want to point out to you is it's amazing to me that so many of these people would claim to be atheists, or at least claim that they wouldn't be Christians in the way that they're doing. The people who are doing the climate, the protests and all of that stuff, many of them claim not to be Christians. And yet we do things like NBC News, for sure. They're not a Christian organization.
Right.
And yet notice they say confess. Even when we deny God, we can't get away from the fact that we are made in his image, and we understand that we're supposed to be worshipers.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I mean, it's everyone. I remember one time teaching about worship and understanding the fact that everyone has been created to worship. You're going to worship something.
You're going to worship something.
Something in your life you're going to worship. It could be your kids, your job, money, sports, people, music, people, whatever it is. You're going to worship something. It's just built into our nature because we've been created to worship God. Right. So because of the fall, we've chosen to worship other things. Because
let's be real, if we are nothing more than beings who have come about from millions and millions of years or billions of years of accidents and chemistry, why do we care? We're just doing what our biology told us to do.
Right.
And even beyond that, like, well, you're supposed to further the species. Who says?
Yeah.
Who says that's the point of it? Because we're just there. We're just fizzing. We're just being chemical reactions. So why do I have any responsibility to anybody else?
Right.
I don't. So it's the ultimate determinism, because all you can say is like, I'm just doing what my biology told me to. And we find it so convenient to use that excuse when it comes to things like gender identity, and when it comes to things like all of that kind of sexual revolution stuff. And yet when we come to other parts of environmentalism and other things, we're just sitting there going, oh, well, no, you can't do that. You have a responsibility.
Right.
Responsibility to who?
Yeah.
And who says?
Right.
Who's the authority? Because at the end of the day, even though we don't want to name it, we all think that there's an authority. That's why you're confessing. Who are you confessing to? Even in the Union Seminary, who should know better, but they say to the beings that sustain us.
Right. Yeah.
No, there's not. Those things don't sustain us. What sustains us is God.
Yeah.
God is the one that sustains.
Breathing life into us, yeah.
Not the environment. I mean, he uses the vehicle of the environment, but no, not the environment.
Isn't it amazing how, we'll throw out phrases like, oh, I couldn't live without this, or I'm so glad this is in my life because I couldn't live without it.
Right.
You could live without it.
Right.
Like, God is the one sustaining you. You can't live without God, and that's where this skewed view is coming from, because now we're thinking that, now, granted, God has given us plants, and I'm sure we'll get to this, for, like, we have to have them to breathe, honestly.
Right.
But here's the thing. Let's just speak hypothetically. If God wanted to, I'm sure he could uproot every plant on this earth and still sustain us.
Absolutely.
So that's where we're missing the mark here, is we're not here to worship these plants. I mean, I hope people do really go to the notes on this when you post this and look at this picture, because it's ridiculous.
Right.
And it just goes to show, like, this is where we are today.
Yeah.
This is mankind today.
Yeah. I mean, and these are supposed to be religious people who are going to start churches, and this is what they're going to teach.
Mhm.
And they call this seminary, and it's rough. And so let's look at some things. So
Right.
the very beginning, okay, I went onto this place. I'll probably post this. I found some good things from. It's called the Cornwall Alliance. I haven't read everything. So as with everything, I'm not giving a carte blanche,
Right.
recommendation of everything that they have. We never do that. So, but there are some things that were on there that I was reading. I'm like, this is really good. One of the things they say. So we start off with God created the heavens and the earth.
Mhm.
Genesis 1.
Yeah.
Okay. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. So he's the one that's done that. And when you look from a Christian worldview at the environment, you have to start there because it's going to make a difference.
Right.
It's going to make a difference in how we see the world. Because number one, when we look at climate change, what I tell people is I don't know if the climate's actually changing, if this is a cyclical effect. I'll tell you what, though, if you go back to the Bible, it says that God cursed the earth.
Yeah.
So for me to see that stuff's breaking down, I'm like, yeah, no duh, God cursed the earth.
Right.
Okay. so I mean that's very, very plain.
Mhm.
You go back to Genesis 3:16, I believe it is, and that's where that whole thing plays out.
Mhm.
And God cursed the earth, and we're gonna have to work hard at it, and it's not gonna be fun, and it's not gonna be easy. And yet God still said to have dominion over everything.
Right.
But I want you to see something. Genesis 8. If you go to Genesis 8, what we have there is a story of Noah. Okay, so we start off with God created the heavens and the earth. It is the way he created it. Now, the first thing you have to understand is, would an all-knowing God, an all-powerful God, create an earth that we could destroy? If we could destroy something that he created and sustains, would he still be all-powerful? No.
He would cease to be God.
Right.
Yeah.
So to think that we can somehow undo God's plans because we don't recycle enough or whatnot, that is wrong thinking.
Right. Absolutely.
And to show this, look at this. So if you really want to look at like an apocalyptic event, you can go no further than Genesis around 8 and talk about Noah.
Yeah.
I mean, God literally is destroying the earth. You want to talk about icebergs melting and flooding?
Right.
You want to talk about how about the whole earth flooded?
The whole earth. Right. You want to? Yeah.
Okay, so the whole earth floods. Noah sees this. I mean, they're sitting there like, we just saw everything die.
Mm-hmm.
Everything except that what's on this boat.
It's on that ark, right?
Everything is dead,
including the animals.
Including the animals. The fish were.
The fish, I'm sure,
were
right.
okay because they were fish. But sea creatures and whatnot. But everything else is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're supposed to walk on this dry land again, thinking it won't happen.
Right.
So what does God do? He talks to them, and you go to verse 20. It says, Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. The Lord smelled the soothing aroma, and the Lord said to himself, I will never again curse the ground on account of man, for the intent of man's heart is evil from his youth, and I will never again destroy every living thing as I have done. And verse 22, while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease.
That's a pretty good promise.
God will sustain the earth. We
Yeah.
will always have cold. We will always have warmth.
Mm-hmm.
We will always have summer. We will always have winter. We will always have day. We will always have night. We'll always have seeds. We'll always have harvest.
Right.
The earth will continue until God determines.
Mm-hmm.
And really, even at the end of that, even if you go through Revelation and it talks about how God does cause famine and you see takes away a third of the water and all that jazz. What does he do at the end? He creates a new heavens and a new earth.
Right.
So the earth is never going to just cease necessarily. The earth maybe as now we know it, but he's going to create a new heavens and a new earth, and we're always going to have some place.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you work from the presupposition of we exploded, we got a certain amount of resources, and now this is supposed to last us infinitely. Number one, it's ridiculous because we know it's impossible to think that this is going to happen infinitely. If evolution were true, one of our generations would face severe climate change and there would be nothing they could do to do. I don't care if you're just living like just off of the trees for the rest of your life. You're not going to be it because eventually this will stop.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to again, we just talked about it. What is your ultimate authority? So if my authority is, I believe in global warming, I believe in all these things,
Right.
that's my authority. Like I wake
Right.
up in the morning thinking, if I don't recycle, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, well then, man, I'm destroying everything around me. And in a way, you're kind of becoming your own little God with a little G.
Right.
To say I can control everything around me because if I do these things, and we're forgetting, like you just read in Genesis 8, the promise that God gave to us that says, no, I'm the one that's going to sustain you.
Right.
So you know what? The polar ice caps, if they melt, I'm the one that's going to like keep it from destroying you. I'm the one that we just talked about with the hurricanes. I'm the one that diverts the hurricane to not wipe out the east coast or the coast of Florida.
Right.
It's amazing when you think about how we're so prideful in our own sin that we think we can affect things that we can't.
Right.
We think that we're sovereign, that we are sovereign, and forget the fact that God is sovereign. We are literally worshiping the creation instead of the creator, like the Bible talks about.
Right.
So this is what's happening in today's society.
Right. And that's where I wanted to take us next. So when you go, so again, we read this text all the time because it's just so pertinent for today, but Romans 1, when you go to Romans 1, I feel like I quote this thing all the time. So you start down verse 21. You start 20. For since the creation of the world, so since God created the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power, divine nature have clearly been seen, having been understood through what has been made. So through nature, we should be, what you said, worshiping the creator, not the creation, so that they are without excuse. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God nor give thanks, but became futile in their speculations. Their foolish heart was darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools, exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for what? An image of nature. Form of corruptible man, right? So birds, 4-footed animals, crawling creatures.
Right.
And even though we're not necessarily putting a made idol there that is something shaped, like you would say, like with Israel when they did the golden calf, we worship nature.
Yeah.
And how do I know that? Because we have congresswomen, right? Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
There you go. Nice.
What did she say? She said that we have to start thinking about the morality of having children, continuing to have children with our environment the way that it is. And in fact, many people, I think, I don't know exactly what the population is right now. I want to say it's 4 to 5 billion. I'm not completely sure, but I know a lot of people want to get our population, total population of the earth, down to under 1 billion.
Wow.
Okay, which would represent a massive cut in I know what we have now.
So right now we're at 7.7 billion.
Okay. So
it's a lot of people.
So even more than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they want it somewhere around 1 billion. They said that's the sustainable number. And so there's one of two ways you can get that number. Either one, you start killing people, which turns out nobody really likes.
Right.
Or number two, you start telling people don't have kids. Well, we've done a lot of that, right? When you talk about some of the things we do with abortion, some of the things we do where we have relationships that are going to be unfruitful. We worship the environment and we are trying to control our population.
Right. Yeah.
And that is a very real intent of a lot of people's heart.
Yeah.
And so they worship the environment over themselves, thinking that that's how we're going to flourish. And that is plainly wrong. So when we sit there and go, how do we look at the environment? The first thing we have to come with presupposition. Number one, God created the heavens and the earth. He is an all-powerful God, an all-knowing God, a God that would not create earth that he would let us destroy without his sovereign will, being that it is destroyed. God has promised in Genesis that he will sustain the earth as long as necessary. Okay, so even if the earth was destroyed, it's because God intended it to be, and there's nothing we could have done to stop it anyways.
Right.
So does that just mean that we do everything to anything that we want? Well, no. Right? We're supposed to dominate the earth. We're supposed to have dominion over it. And furthermore, we do everything for God's glory, right?
Right.
So there's a responsibility there. We don't waste what God has given us. We use it for his glory. And so what we do is we dominate every aspect of it. And yes, there's going to be created waste, and maybe we have to learn how to be more efficient with that. But think of some of the things that we have to do. So in dominating the earth and using things for God's glory, one of the things is easing the suffering of the sick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do we do that? Through medicine. How are we going to do that? Through medical advances,
Right.
through research. We continue to do cancer research. I mean, think about, one of the greatest miracles that you could see that's been recorded, if you could ever read firsthand accounts of when insulin was first made available to kids. And when these kids who were dying and lethargic and no hope for these kids, they looked awful. And then they got insulin, and how they just like started to perk up right away.
Wow.
And how all of a sudden, like, it was like a miracle cure for them.
Right.
Same thing with antibiotics and like penicillin and things like that. These were things that all of a sudden people who were dying of very simple things. I mean, back you got sick or you got an infection, it was scary because if it didn't start to clear up on its own, it was a big deal.
Right.
When you got injured in battle, a lot of times you didn't die from the injury itself, you died from the infection.
Yeah. And what's amazing about that is, obviously we're given minds to do that, to create those things. And it all goes back to, in the beginning, God.
Right.
Right? Because God is the one who has created mankind, to gives man a mind to think these things, to create these things, to develop more in these areas. And yet we still look to the creation as our healer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always something new. Well, we're always going through fads as a society, right? We went through the kale fad. Kale is like the superfood. Oh, yeah. Everybody's got to eat kale. Right now, I'd say we're like in the cannabis stage. Everything has to be cannabis. It's everywhere, and it's like if you're not doing it, then you're gonna die like tomorrow. It's amazing. Like,
CBD oil cures everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, I've been. Apparently it does. Yeah. I'm assuming if I drink it, it'll be better for my voice.
It's
I don't
all
know.
you need. It's the manna. It's actually, that's what it was. When God sent down manna,
He sent down cannabis.
It's cannabis.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be, people are gonna like crop that out of our podcast, and that's what they're gonna hear right now. We were joking, everyone. We were joking.
Of course.
Do not take that as true. You know who you are. Okay, so there's so many verses that talk about the environment and things like that. Psalm 24:1, the earth is the Lord's. We could stop right there.
Right.
The earth is the Lord's. So what does that mean? Well, that means that everything on the earth is the Lord's. But then it says, "in the fullness thereof." What does that mean? Well, everything that fills up this earth is the Lord's. And then it says, "the world and all and those who dwell therein." So what does that encompass? It encompasses everything. That means it encompasses anything that we are putting all of our hope and trust in to be the end all and of all things. God is over all that. Like, He controls all these things. And so often we are saying, okay, so-and-so just came up with this new thing. No, they didn't. You know why? Because there's nothing new under the sun. Let's see, what else is there here? Trying to find another something. Just talking about, okay, Job 12. But this is kind of funny. "But ask the beast, and they will teach you, the birds of the heaven, and they will tell you, or the bushes of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fishes of the sea will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In His hand is the life of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind." So, I mean, even in the book of Job, God is reminding Job, yeah, you see these animals and you see these trees, but you know what they're doing? They're reminding you that I am God. I am Yahweh. I am the creator of all things. You're the one that's forgotten, not creation.
Right.
And that's why there's this misuse that's happening of us, taking the creation, the ice caps, the trees, the rainforest. Now, here's the thing. It could sound kind of insensitive for us to say, and we're not saying this, like, chop down everything. Like, I love camping. I love going out and just seeing a bunch of trees. We live near the beach, so I love looking out and just seeing creation. I love all that. But what we're trying to hint at here is, like, we don't worship that.
Right.
Like, God is our ultimate authority, and we worship Him alone.
And we also have to understand that man's the priority.
Right.
On the earth. All right. Man's the highest of creation. He's God's special creation. And so if it comes down to something that's going to hurt mankind or something that's going to hurt the environment, mankind has to be chosen
Mhm.
100% of the time. Okay. Now, rarely do we have that type of one or the other type solution. But instead of looking for option three, so many people just choose the environment over it. And what I'm trying to say here is sure. Is there a problem with recycling? No, there isn't. Is there a problem with trying not to put out as much emissions or trying to get more fuel efficient cars? No, there's not.
Right.
What I'm saying is, why are we doing it though?
Mm-hmm.
Is your motivation because I don't want to hurt the world, I don't want to hurt the environment? Is your motivation because I want to use God's resources as efficiently as possible because this is what He's given to me and I want to glorify Him in what He's done?
Right.
He's given us the earth to do with what we need to.
Right.
You know, and in some cases we're hurting people. We're not letting people flourish because of the environment. We won't let industry go forward because we're hurting the environment. And things like poverty and other things are coming over these countries because of that.
Right. You know, it's funny that you brought up recycling because I heard something. I don't know if this is true or not. This is a kind of side note.
I think I know what you heard.
Oh, really? Well, I heard that when we recycle, now this might be our area, but when we recycle, it all goes to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
And like they're not really recycling it because it's all going to the same thing
So,
because there's not enough manpower to like separate.
What's happened
things.
is a lot of the stuff that we were recycling and whatnot went to other countries, and a lot of those other countries are like, we don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
So
You're sending us nothing. Like you're sending us garbage, and we don't want this. Right.
Well, no, literally, we were sending our trash to other countries, and they're wanting to stop taking it. So it's amazing, even that when we think we're recycling, how little that helps. And in fact, there was an article put out or a podcast that a friend had talked to me about, and he was explaining how the energy needed to recycle some of the materials that we're doing, when you do the net of what it actually costs the environment, it's not that great.
Right.
So what happens is some of these things we think are doing a big deal, and they're just not.
They're not. Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, when we talk about responsibility and the way that we raise our livestock, sure. When you talk about the fact that sometimes we exaggerate and we waste a lot of the food and other resources that we have, you're right. But I'm not going to let other people go through poverty either and through starvation just because I don't like the way, you know, that you're raising these cows. You know, if some, you know, they were made to be eaten.
That's a good way to put it.
And so that's what we need to do with
it. It's amazing because just a couple of podcasts ago we were talking about human sex trafficking, and you think about that, you think about abortion, you think about all these things that are happening, and man could be like, okay, but when it comes to something like the environment, it's like you better watch out because you might have people at your door wanting to kill you,
right? When
you can say anything about it,
right?
So it just goes to show, it shows our sinfulness, right? It shows our skewed view and our sinfulness towards God, who God, like you said, has given us. We talk about all the time on this podcast, the Imago Dei, right? Being in the image of God. We have been created in the image of God, and yet we will say in our pridefulness, in our sinfulness, that God, your creation is not as important as what I deem is important.
Right.
Creation, trees, water, stuff like that, which, like we said, it is important, but man comes first. Mankind comes first because man has been created in the image of God, not a tree.
Right.
You know, not a fish. Man has been created in the image of God.
I mean, case in point, you know, I've talked to different people, and Michael Vick, you know, with his crime, which it was a crime, he shouldn't have done it, with the dog fighting, and where he killed some dogs. Like apparently he slammed them on the pavement or whatever, and that was terrible. And he went to jail for it. Okay. And some people, I'll never forgive him because he's on Fox Sports Sunday. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And, you know, he paid his time. He actually then mentored with Tony Dungy. He's turned his life around. I don't know if he's a Christian, but, you know, he's done something with himself. Some people are like, I can never forgive him. And yet, I know those same people themselves or have friends who have had multiple abortions.
Wow.
Like, so you're okay with somebody killing a human, and that's not a crime. They didn't have to go to jail or anything, but he killed dogs, and you'll never forgive him. That's the type of skewing that I see.
Right.
That's the type of thing where it's like, no. Now, am I saying what Michael Vick did was right? No, of course not.
Right.
Should he have gone to jail?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same token, what's the where's the continuity there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing because you hear about all the times where people get off for things like just different crimes and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and then people that go to jail for certain things, and it's amazing. Like for instance, case in point, our church. For years we were trying to build in our back property, and we couldn't because there were turtles there,
Oh.
so they wouldn't let us, even though we own the land. The church owns the land. We own
Mhm.
all that land, but because it's the wetlands, the county would not let us build for many years until all of the turtles were removed. So even that is just going to show, like, where is the,
Right.
now I'm sure that if we were to say, okay, that's great, but how about if we give you this X amount of money, which we're not going to do as a church? Like, we're
Right.
like, okay, we submit to, we render to Caesar what is Caesar's. But, deep down we're thinking this is pretty stupid.
No, I mean, to your point, there, I know people who have been building on the beach, right? So, I understand turtles gotta have a place to live, and turtles gotta be able to thrive too. I mean,
Mhm.
they do add something to us.
Right.
So okay, so we can learn to use them efficiently and learn to use them and live, and they have their space or whatever,
Mhm.
within it, and still bring glory to God that way. But just to your point there, I know a lot of people who build on the beach, and they weren't allowed to build there until they made a donation to the county, and it was
Mm.
like, okay,
Right.
all of a sudden they're allowed to build there.
Right.
So it's like you don't really care about the environment, you care about money.
Right.
And that's kind of what my point is when people talk about the environment. I'm like, okay, so the environment is decaying. I understand that. Why does that mean I got to give the government more money?
Right.
What's the government used? What's government done for the environment?
Yeah. What are they going to do?
They do nothing.
It's going to be on the road that's going to be destroyed by the next hurricane.
So, and let me just encourage you here, and as we close the discussion here, um, you know, one of the things that a lot of people talk about, and I think we spend so much time, and there is something about using our bodies efficiently, but people spend so much time about worrying, should we use this or should we use this, and this is our carcinogen, and this is our carcinogen, and blah blah blah. Can I just encourage you something? Your body's gonna die.
Hmm.
It's the Bible's clear.
100% mortality rate.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, yeah. I mean Elijah.
Well, I mean,
Enoch.
yeah, Jesus.
Well,
Thanks, Paul. Cool. Cool.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah,
Really
thanks.
on air.
Appreciate that.
But you are gonna die. It's appointed unto man once to die, and after that, the judgment. Okay. So we are going to die unless Jesus comes back first.
Hmm.
Um, so while I'm not saying don't just eat however you want to, or hurt your body in different ways, through lifestyle choices, I think sometimes we spend so much time, even in one sense, worshiping ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I like I'll live longer if I do this. You want to live longer? How about for eternity?
Right.
You know how you live for eternity? The gospel.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
And I understand. And when you have a view of the gospel, what you're going to understand is that, yes, while you should be taking care of your body, the reason we should be taking care of our body is so we can do what Matthew 28 tells us to do: go into all the world preaching the gospel. If we can't preach the gospel because we can't get off the couch because we're breathing too heavy, that's a
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay, because of our lifestyle choices. I understand disabilities and sicknesses, so don't think I'm talking
Right.
about that.
Don't add us.
But yeah,
I
but
actually do, but other stuff.
yeah, but at the same token, we take care of ourselves so we can fulfill our mission in life. And what is our mission in life? Our mission in life is to preach the God, to make disciples, to preach the gospel.
Right.
So can encourage you, the gospel is the answer to this. When you see the world declining and you see it going in, you can sit there and go, yeah, you know what? The climate's changing. It's getting hotter.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It's not going to go anywhere until God wants it to.
Right.
And Jesus is coming to take us home, and there will be a new heaven and new earth. You
Yeah.
want to live in a perfect world? You want to live in a world where everything is not wasted, where everything is used, where it's going to be perfect and self-sustaining forever and ever and ever? Then follow the gospel.
Right.
That's how you get to the new heavens and the new earth.
That's good.
That should be our point. Our point should be to glorify God in this,
Right.
and not ourselves. When we glorify ourselves or we glorify the earth, we live in such a way that we're going to do a bunch of things that honestly will not amount to a hill of beans.
Hmm.
when we live for the gospel, now we've done something.
Yeah.
And we will see that this stuff doesn't matter as much. It matters, but not as much as people are willing to. I mean, people, like you said, will kill for this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching Whale Wars. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. But a person, one of the things they have to say is like, are you willing to die or kill for whales? Yes.
Wow.
What?
All right then.
But that's what they ask everyone before they board the boat.
Wow.
Are you willing to die for a whale? And people are willing to die and kill for these types of things. And like, guys, that's not our battlefield.
Yeah.
Our battlefield is the gospel.
Man, that's so true. I'm just going to read one more. We were talking about these confessions earlier with the plants. There's one that says, I recycle all the time, but I know others won't be bothered. I'm going to leave this world with regrets about our polluted earth. When I read that, I was thinking, that's what you're going to regret when you leave this earth? Believe me, you're going to regret more than that if you're not in Christ. Like exactly what you just said. So
and you see how the gospel will change that? Because
exactly.
If you have the gospel, you won't leave the world. You won't leave with regrets. Why? Because you'll understand that Jesus was over it all. If you do leave the world without the gospel, you're going to regret that you spent so much time in the environment and didn't spend time getting closer to the Lord.
Yep.
So
that's good. Good stuff. So let me ask: is this the part of the podcast where like the music will start fading in?
About now, yeah.
Sweet.
Where we sit there and go, oh, good stuff. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions or if you'd like to tell us about this, go ahead and email us at project224 at gmail, project224podcast@gmail.com. Go ahead and visit our Facebook or Instagram or Twitter page.
We're all over the place.
Yeah.
Find us. Reach out to us.
Leave us a 5-star review.
I'm going to be praying for that person you said had health issues because I want to hear the butter challenge.
Yeah, that's right. Make sure that go ahead and email us and you will get a shirt. Although I think we're out of mediums. Yeah, I think we have some smalls left. Mediums. We definitely have large, extra large,
right?
Double X.
These shirts are comfortable.
Yeah,
like they're thick.
But
you got to reach out to us. People ask, how do I get a shirt? Well, first of all, you got to wait this long in the podcast to find out.
That's right.
And that's all you got to do is reach out to us.
You got to wait till the outro music.
Yeah, that's right now. So love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.
All right, bye.